Hello, my name is Eamon Kelly, and I'm going to create an animated advertisement using Adobe Animate. We're going to work with the logo we created in the previous video using Adobe Illustrator, which was taken from the A-Level IT 9626 paper, 2017 Specimen paper 4. This is specifically, the tutorial is specifically for students studying for this exam, but it's also suitable for anybody relatively new to animation and particularly to Adobe Animate. We're going to watch the animation first of all. Okay, so there are a number of skills that you're going to learn while doing this. Setting the frame size and the frames per second, importing and resizing images, creating and naming and reordering layers, converting images and objects to symbols, and then working with motion tweens, adding text and fading in and out of text, looping the animation, saving it or exporting it as a suitable format for a website. Now, I recommend that you highlight the examination paper when you're reading it, highlight the important points when you're working on this. I think it's question 3. It's what I do when I work with PDF. You can see here question 3. So I've gone through it already and I've highlighted the important points. So when I come looking back over it, as I work through the animation, I can refer to this here. Also, I recommend opening Notepad because as I highlight, I also take some notes here. I know that the height of it is 300 pixels by 500. These are going to be my layers. These are going to be my layers, but also the text that I'm going to use on the screen. It needs to loop. I'm going to export as an MP4 because it's a suitable format for websites. And this is going to be the name. So it's very handy to have this information here, or maybe any calculations I might need to hold on to here. Again, you could, if the video is playing too quickly, you can slow it down, or if it's too fast, then you might speed it up by going to the settings and playback speed. Okay, let's go straight to then animate. If you're new to this here, this is probably the screen that will show up. First of all, you have to choose what format you want. I'm going to go straight into HTML5, and I'll be always working with HTML5. Click on this here, and I've got my frame size here already, but I'm going to work. Okay, I'm going to work with this here. I know that it's over at the right hand side. I'm in properties, so we'll have properties, libraries. Down here we've got our timeline and output. I'm going to go over here to properties, and I'm going to change this to 500 by 300. This is what I've been asked to do. There's no mention of the frame size, but I always change this to 30 if I can, if there's no mention of it, because it just makes it easier for calculation. So 30 frames per second. Now I have my frame here. So back over to the examination paper. I know I'm supposed to bring in the ISO logo at the start of the animation. They don't tell me how long it should appear for, so I'm going to work with my own time settings. So I'm going to I see the logo is going to come in, and then I have these other 3, and I've also got the text. So I'm going to give each one 3 seconds. Might be a little bit short, but that's what I'm going to work with. Sometimes in the examination paper, you'll be told how many seconds that each image should appear on the screen. So it's going to come in, it's going to appear small at first and gradually grow to fill the full frame, and it should look smooth. Okay, so I'm going to work back over here to my layers and down the left hand corner. And I'm going to type in logo here because I like to give the layers the name so that I don't get confused afterwards. I'm working on the first. I'm going to bring in my image straight away. I can just drag and drop it in, or I could go File, Import. Let's look at File, Import for a second. Go into File, Import, and I'm given different options. I can import it straight onto the stage, or I could import into the library. If I import into the library, I can use it over and over again. But I'm just going to copy and paste, copy it in. So my logo was a JPEG before, so I'll bring this in here. I'm going to go to Window, Align, Center, Oops, you just click on the image, is not. Go to align. Okay. I'm going to do sometimes with animation programs, they can be a little bit slow and sluggish, and some things don't work as quickly as you might expect. So for this reason, but not this reason only, am I going to go and actually save it with the file name. So I'm going to go in File. I'm just going to save it as a Adobe Animate. And I'm going to put this in here. And you can see I did this in the previous one. It's going to overwrite what's there already. Okay, so I've got my image here. I'm going to click on my image. I'm going to see, on the right hand side, I'm going to, this over here on the right hand side, you can see I'm working with the free transform tool. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. Good. Okay. I said I'm going to work with this for down in the timeline. I'm working for 3 seconds. I'm going to go right click and insert frame. So it's going to work for 3 seconds. I need to go back up to the first frame, click on my symbol or on my image, my logo, and convert it to a symbol. And I'm going to call this logo as well. I'm also going to go straight up here on my first frame and insert motion tween. This is going to be a motion tween. And I need to go to my last frame again. My last frame, and I'm going to get it to, I've still got my transform tool highlighted over on the right hand side, so this I can make it larger. And you see as I do this here, you see a little dot going here just to show that the keyframe has been inserted. Let's go and look at this fairly quickly, see if this has worked for us. Good. Okay, don't be surprised if it's a little slow coming in the first time, or even if it's a little bit if it stops and starts, if it's a little bit jagged. Back over to the exam paper. Okay, then our 3 images. Animate the 3 images. So I'm going to bring in the accommodations image first of all. So I'm going to create a layer for this before I do so. Down to the left hand side in the timeline, new layer. And because I've typed up these words before, I'm going to use them. It will be a quicker way of doing it. Go in here and Control V. Okay, I'm going to click. So if you can see on the timeline, I have just clicked on this here, and I want this to come in also first. So I'm going to click here, and I'm actually going to go over to the logo, and I'm going to lock logo just so that I don't interfere with it. So I'm clicking on the accommodation, right click, and insert keyframe. Go to my images. I have them in here. I'm going to bring accommodation. Click back here. This is going to also appear for 3 seconds, up to 6. Insert frame. Now I'm going to back to the first frame, and I'm going to move this into place. I click on the frame in the timeline, but I'm now clicking on the image as well, and I'm going to just put it in on the right hand side in properties, x-axis, x and y, and we know that the width of the image is, or the canvas is 500 by, I find this a quick way of doing it. We also were asked okay, put in for a suitable time. I have 3 seconds, but rest of it fade in and fade out into the next image displayed, and also display the appropriate text. So let's get it to fade in and fade out first of all. So I've got this here. So we've got an image. We want to fade it in and fade it out. We need to convert it to a symbol. I'm going to call this, because I've accommodation, Control V in there. I'm clicking on the first one. I'm also motion tween. Click OK. And maybe in the very first one, I want this to fade in. So to fade in, I'm now clicking on the first frame, but I'm also clicking on the symbol. And over the right hand side, if you want to fade it in, we're working with color effects. Yeah, so over at the right hand side, properties, color effects, I'm going to click on this here to work with fading in, fading out, to work with alpha. I'm going to give this, which I did in the previous one, I'm going to give it a value of 20. You see, it's very, you can just see the outline of the mountains in the background. Now, so I'm working with 3, 4, halfway here. I want this to change. I want this to go, well, I want to go from 20 to here, and I want to click on the image again. I'm clicking on the image. I'm back over to effects. I'm going to change this to, I want full. Okay, by doing so, you see that the keyframe has been inserted in here automatically. I'm going to go to the very last one also, where I wanted to fade out. Click on the image again, and at the end I want this to be 20. Control where it fades out, because the new image will start to come in at this stage. Let's quickly, I just want to make sure that it's working okay, play this from the very beginning. Good, I'm happy with that. Next, I'm going to bring in the text now, because this way I can use some of the information on the timeline. The next, so timeline, new layer, I'm simply going to call this, click on it, I'm going to call it text. I'm going to Control V because I've got accommodation in there still, so it's called text accommodation. Again, I'm going to click on this here, so text timeline. I'm actually going to lock the accommodation one as well, so down the bottom. So now I'm 3 seconds, click on this here, insert keyframe. See, the keyframe has come in. I'm going to go to the 6 second, insert frame, go back to the beginning of the text, and here I want to insert text. Now the text that I want, I'm going to go over here, is going to be luxury accommodation, Control C. Go over to the right panel and text tool, click on this here, click on the screen and Control V. I'm going to work this into place. Over the right hand side, the selection tool, I want to move this into place. I'm now using the arrow keys to move it down to the bottom right hand corner. I could also just move it over like this here also. Look, I'm just dragging to place. Okay, back to the very first frame of the text on the text accommodation timeline. Click on the very first one. I'm going to click on the text here, but again, we need to right click and convert to the symbol. And I put in text accommodation, Control V, luxury accommodation. Now I need to go to insert at the top, motion tween. I need to insert the final frame here. Back to the very first keyframe. And again, I click on the luxury accommodation symbol and back over because I want to fade it in. I want to go to color effects, down to alpha for transparency. I'm going to use the 20 from before. Good. I'm going to jump to 135 just above the previous one. Again, click on the text. Here I want it to go to 100. I can slider up to 100. And then finally, just above the previous one, this is why I like to put in the image first of all and then the text. Click again on the symbol and I need to change this back down to 20. Okay, and good. It looks as if there are more frames here than I want, so I'm going to, in the bottom on the timeline, I'm going to just, from the right hand side, I'm just going to do this here, highlight, and clear frames. Back over to text accommodation, I'm going to lock this here, and I'm going to bring in the next one, which is going to be an image I know. Back to my question paper, which is slopes, and I'm also going to world class slopes. So I'm going to type over here, I've got slopes, Control C, down to my timeline, rename the layer, Control V. I want this to come in on the just after the other, so just I'm inserting keyframe, insert keyframe. I need this to come in for up to 9. So insert frame. I might also, on the very bottom, you might see there's these little mountains. I might change the, just to make it a little bit easier to work with. So I'm working with on the very bottom of the time frame. So back to where the new slopes is coming in, clicking on this here. Go to my folder, bring in slopes, click on the screen, click on slopes, over to the right hand side, change this to 0, Y to 0, the width to 500, the height to 300. Okay, and it's in place. Now, as we know already from the previous ones, I need to click on the image. I'm going to right click on the image. I need to convert it because we're going to fade in, fade out. So convert it to just Control slopes. It's the name of the image as well. And then I also, still clicking on this here, I need to indicate the type of tween. It's a motion tween. Staying exactly where I am. I'm going to click on the image again. The right hand side, I go over to properties, color effects. I'm going to go to alpha. It's already on 20, which is fine for me. I'm going to scroll along on the bottom of the timeline. So I'm halfway between 6 and 9 seconds. So I need to go to 225, I think. Here I'm going to, again, click on the image, because otherwise if I don't click on the image, the color effects doesn't show up. Go to alpha again. Now I want, at this stage, I want it to be, and we see our time frame has come in here. Click at the very end of the, I'm having difficulty selecting it. Okay, and again, click on the image, and I take it back down to, over its color effects, back down to 20. Okay, 20, good. I'm going to lock this timeline in the bottom at slopes. I'm locking it. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call it text. I still got the word slopes, I think, yeah. I'm going to highlight the timeline, the very first one. I'm going to right click, insert keyframe. Text is going to come in here. It's going to finish frame here. So the text is going to come in. So right over to the right hand side, click on text, and I'll go to my notepad because I have the text here. World class slopes, Control C, text, Control V. I'm going to the right hand side, going to the selection tool, and I'm going to just move this into place. Okay, make sure that I'm on the on the timeline again on the very first keyframe. Right click on the world class slopes text. I'm going to right click because I need to convert a symbol. I'm just going to control V in here, world class slopes, the name of it. I'm just going to make sure that that first one is selected again. Go up to insert and need to make it a motion tween. Click on slopes again. We're in the first frame at the bottom, and I need to go over to color effects because again this needs to fade in. We'll choose exactly the same as the other one. Alpha is 20 seconds or 20%. Down to the bottom, just above the previous one, 225. Click on the canvas on the symbol. Go back over to the right hand side, properties, color effects, alpha 100. Down to the bottom again, time frame. Click on world class slopes, and again I'm going to change color effects alpha back to 20. Okay, good. I'm going to lock this layer, and we need onto the next one, which is the next image, which is family, and we're going to font for the family, but I have this information here done. So family, Control C. Oops, not what I want. I'm clicking at the moment on the layer to rename it, Control V, so family. I'm going to scroll over the timeline because I want it to start on the next one. I'm going to insert keyframe. I'm going to give it 3 seconds, so it'll bring it up to 12. Insert frame. Go to the first one again and bring in my image. We're working with family. Scroll it in or copy it in. I'm going to click on the image. The properties will change. 0 here again. Again, you can just drag this into place if you like and resize it. I just like to do it over here. 500 by 300. Okay. I'm going to click just to make sure that on the timeline, the first one is clicked, and I'm going to click on the image. I need to convert this image because we're going to use an effect on it, so I need to convert it to a symbol. I'm going to use just the word family, good. I'm going to go up to insert, go into motion tween, and now we have a motion tween. Again, clicking on the first one. Now I'm going to click on the symbol, which is the family. Click on this here. The properties screen changes. Go over to color effects, back to alpha. For transparency, we've already got 20, which is good. Then I'm going to jump halfway between 9 and 12, so I think it's 315. Click on this here. Make sure that if you see it, I'm looking for my properties to change so I click on the image and I change on the right hand side color effects again up to 100. Automatically the time frame comes in here, the keyframe. Sorry, the keyframe, the dot comes in here. Then I click on the very last one, click on the image again, and I change this down to 100, not 120 again. Okay, I think I got that right. Just double check this here. Just change that to 100 on the right hand side. Okay. I'm going to lock them down the timeline. I'm locking it. I'm bringing in a new layer, which will be the text. Rename it. Text. Family. I'm going to work just above the other one. I will need to insert my keyframe. I'm going to insert at the end of this here my frame. So back to the 9 seconds. Text family. And this is where I start my text. I'm going to copy and paste from over here. I've got front for the family. Control C. Right hand side, text tool. Click on screen. Control V. Text in here. Okay, I'm going to click over on the selection tool. This allows me to move it into place. I've also chosen the transform tool. Go down to the timeline, make sure the first frame is selected. And this one here, I need to right click on this here, convert it to a symbol again. I'm just going to Control V in here. We've got Fun for the Family symbol. I'm going to just go up to Insert, Motion Tween, and now this has been converted to a motion tween. I'm going to click on the last frame here, just above the previous one, Insert Frame, though I think that's there already. It is. Okay, back to the first keyframe, clicking on Fun for the Family. I need to click on this here because I'll get the color effects over the side to change. Transparency, click on this again, Alpha, and the very first one should be 20. I'll just type this in, it's often faster. I'm going to go to the middle one, click on the swing again, bring it up to 100 in Properties, and then click on the last one, click on Fun for the Family again, and change this to 20 over Color Effects, Alpha 20. Good. Just try to remove this on the bottom and clear frames. Oops. Okay, back to the very beginning. I'm going to go up here and just file save. I'm going to play it. Okay. Okay. Okay, looking at this, at the moment I'm in the timeline. I'm over on the right hand side. I'm going to go to Properties, it's the Publish Settings, and I want to make sure that the name is already here. Okay, this is not where I wanted to. Oh no, it is. Make sure that Loop Timeline is clicked here, and I say OK here. So we have the looping here. So I'm going to go to File. We need to export this. Export it as a video. We could also export it as a GIF. I'm going to export it as a video. We need to choose the correct folder for this here. So at the moment it's exporting specimen paper, and it's exporting as a MOV file. That's okay. If I export as a MOV file, what's going to happen? I have to wait for about 10 seconds. And at the bottom of my screen, I'll wait for the Adobe Media Encoder to open up. You see this will happen at the bottom of the screen. Okay, it's taking a little bit of time. Okay, and over here at the right hand side, it automatically, or you may have to choose that it's going to be converted to an MP4, so it's user source files. I'm just going to click on this here. I may have to, let me see. Specimen paper 4. I click on this here, I'm clicking on this here. so I can choose the correct folder. So I'm going to put it straight into the exam folder, and I'm going to save this here. And I need to click on the top right hand side, Start Queue. So the green arrow, Start Queue. And you see it's converting it to from a MOV file to MP4. MOV file is much larger than MP4. And it's done. If we go into our folder, source files, my exam, right click, view, details, and this is the first one here. I'm going to back here, close this here. I'm going to close this here. You could also export it as an animated GIF. It's not responding at the moment, so don't be surprised about that. Okay, and save. And done. Okay, so if you go back to, we started out, just a few recommendations then. When you're working with layers, make sure to first of all use layers, to rename them. Similarly with symbols, make sure that it's a good idea to name them as well. And using the notepad at the side for just copying and pasting some information in, and also just keeping an eye on information. Let's just, before we finish, just make sure that it worked as we wanted it to work. So we're going into our exam folder. We have got our GIF and we got our MP4. Well, let's look at our MP4. You see this one just here. Well, this is the GIF. I've actually clicked on the GIF. Okay. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you to Cambridge International Examinations and also to the OBS screen recording software.